Dan's a gifted speaker too.
Well, I'm not so very gifted, except in that I've got a great deal of experience of a war that I'm afraid, I'm glad that you don't know too much about. My war is totally different. It starts when I'm 15 years of age, when I have to go and get a gas mask fitted and learn how to use it. And then I have to put a shelter in the back garden of corrugated iron, good enough to put 2 beds down, or 2 benches down each side. And being as we're only a few miles away from where the German bombers are likely to come, i.e. between them and the City of London, I was actually now 10 miles east of London. This is all before the war starts. The war hasn't been declared yet. The whole area of people were frightened out of their lives because they thought the end of the world was coming, simply because we had been fed for months before the bombing in Spain, the types of planes that were flying, German planes that were flying in Spain, supporting one side or the other. I wouldn't like to say which one it was, but we could see the total destruction, and this was put on the television, not on the television, on the newsreels, time and time again. So we're all pretty well scared about what is likely to happen. We haven't got, let me put it this way, they then evacuate all the children, women with small babies, pregnant women, and children up to the age of 14. That's school leaving age in my country at that time. They took, I think, in 3 days, something like 26,000 women and children on little paddle steamers up the east coast of England to a county called Suffolk. And they put them into churches, and people came to pick people came who had agreed to take in evacuees, with their name, and they would come and pick them out from the church, which ones they wanted. And so these, and you have to imagine this going on all over the county of Suffolk and Norfolk, which is quite an extensive piece of ground, you know. But it's away from the City of London. That was the idea, is to get them out of there. We would have lost untold numbers of them in the next few months and years that I can remember. I can remember one morning I got up pretty early, about 6:30, well, early for me, and the warning went. My mother said, "Don't go yet, son. Wait and see what happens." That was quite normal. That wasn't unusual for her to say that, because she knew I had to go out on a bike, and she didn't know what was going to happen. I said, "Well, I can't, you know, they don't come this time of the morning, Mum." I said, "I'll go. I'm about 16 now. I'll chance it." "Well, be careful, be careful." I ride about a quarter of a mile up a hill at the station, over the top of a railway, up to the station. I hear a fighter coming, and that wasn't unusual because we were right in the middle of a fighter's situation. I could hear this fighter coming, and I thought, by golly, that's funny, it's coming from the wrong direction. It's coming from the London area, straight down the railway. I gets past the railway, I looks up, and there's a Focke-Wulf 190 with all lights, little red lights up and down the wing, the fore edge of the wings. Cannon shells were flying past my left ear, and I'm just riding past on a bike looking like this, thinking to myself, "Oh, that's a Spitfire." Oh, God bless me. And of course I knew the planes by looking at pictures. Obviously, when you're kids, you do, don't you? And I thought to myself, "Holy, that's the Focke-Wulf 190." And that's the sort of life that we led in those days. And I remember the V1s and V2s coming, which was unbelievable. I brought a crew home one time to my house just east of London. They were coming to London for this. I said, well, come down this Sunday and have have some tea, meet my family. We had been on operations at that time. The warning went, and they're all going, what? This is the Canadians. They're all saying, what do we do now? I said, you don't do anything. We had actually dug the shelter out of the garden that winter and put it in the house because it was so damn cold out. We was either going to die of pneumonia or get blown up, you know. So we thought we'd chance of getting blown up. We put a whole corrugated iron shelter out of the garden, washed it down, heavy work, banged it straight into the front room. My mother and father slept in, and I was allowed to sleep upstairs except if it was a bad night. That meant if there was gunfire and bombs dropping, I was to come down and sleep just outside the door of the home. A landmine fell on the station. Now this station is about 300 or 400 yards away from us as the crow flies. It fell the other side, fortunately the other side of the station. It blew the station wall down and the blast took the chimney off of our house. And the house shook like this, and I'm in front of the fire grate. The soot came down the chimney, covered me completely. My mother screaming from the shelter, which is where just about where Dave Dan is sitting. Come in, Stan, come in here, quick, 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 quick. I started to crawl towards the shelter. My father's got the torch now shining on the opening. She could see the state I was in, covered in soot. She said, get back, don't come in here, you're covered in soot. And this sort of thing, this was not unusual, you know, these sort of things I remember. Obviously you can see I can remember them quite well, vividly. And this went on for a long time. So getting back to the boys that are with me, I've got 5 Canadians with me here at home, you see. Me was the 6th one. We were, yes, the other fellow was the Manchester fellow. Okay, so now we've got 6 Canadians with us. My sister is at home now because she's come back from being evacuated. Having reached the age of 14, she's no longer a member of the school board, so she has to come back and start working like everybody else. So now I've got my sister, my mother and father. These flying bombs, Bob Upcott, who was my pilot, yes, he lived in Windsor. He said, well, what do we do now? I said, well, now, when they come over, if they're still working, like if you can still hear the noise, if the engine's still running, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. If it stops, get in that shelter in the front room as quick as you can. So he said, oh, so this one went straight through, went straight up. You could almost touch it, it wasn't that far away, you know, and it went straight over. And it went point like that, and straight down, and a bloody regular explosion. Bob went, holy mackerel. Well, he hadn't got the words out of his mouth, and 3 more came across from the East Coast way, and it came straight. And this one stops just above our heads here, and it goes like this, and it comes straight down. You can't see them come down very easily because it's too fast. And you can see them when they're just pottering along. And it wasn't as close to us as it looked as though it would be, but it made an awful great big bang. And he said, Jesus Christ, he said, this is dangerous down here, let's get back to the squadron. I never forget that, that's the exact words and that's the way he said it. He wasn't joking, he didn't want to be there anymore. That was the end of that, that was enough for him. You know? And that was just one thing. Now, we could be sitting here now. I've got to explain this to you too. You could be sitting anywhere in this city, and all in a fraction of a second, half this road, the next road, and the road over there would disappear. No warning, nothing. Just a complete explosion out of the blue. That's the rockets. And I've experienced those also. Fortunately, a little way away from me.
They're going faster.
You can't see them. They're about 500 million miles an hour. They just, you don't see them. As I say, you just sit here. You don't have no warning. The warning doesn't go to say, well, get round your air raid shelter or anything like that. It just blows you completely. It could take a whole block of houses straight out. No bother at all.
Man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah. This is what I remember about the war. I haven't even started my part in Bomber Command. I haven't even started that yet. That was scary enough, as it by itself. I mean, this is the point about war, you see. You have to remember, war is a game between one and the other.
But it affects everybody.
These people that start it, they don't suffer.
No, exactly.
It's the people, the ordinary people in the world that suffer.
That's right.
Caught in the crossfire,
The people, these people that were blown all over the place over in England during the Blitz and during the whole war, for that matter. They had no axe to grind. They weren't fighting anybody. Somebody said to me, "How do you? You've heard me say this before. How did you feel about going over there and bombing people?" Now that's a question to try and answer. I mean, I knew I'd done it. I knew when I was doing it, I knew. But what do you? But I'm not sure that these bombs that we're dropping are going to fall on a factory that we're trying to hit, or an oil refinery, or whatever it is. I can't be sure that this 4,000 pound that's just underneath my feet, that's just going to go boom straight out there and fall down and make an awful lot of mess downstairs. It could fall in the field, but it could also fall on the children's home.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I felt about that. I couldn't tell you. I was in a uniform. I'd already been through all this Blitz business. I knew what war was about. I knew about being frightened. I was frightened from the age of 15 to 22. That was no problem. I was used to that. That's why I always said to the Canadians, I've got a little bit of experience under my belt. I know how to be frightened. We're talking now about telling stories to people about the war that they wouldn't know about. And I think it's only just the right thing to do, because unless we tell them what it's like, we can't stop it. And that's my object to the exercise. It's a far-gone sort of wish. But if these people could go through what I went through, they wouldn't want to go to war. You can tell that by what's going on in America and in Iraq at the moment. Sure. Half of America don't want to be over there anyway.
Right.
More than a half, I would think, if they were truthful to themselves.
A silent majority.
Exactly.